Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Pour. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Brian.
Today we are tasting the famed Old Granddad 114, something that causes a lot of chatter, Brian.
Yeah, this is definitely it gets a lot of love in the bourbon world. It comes in, it's budget friendly. It's 114 proof, obviously by the name. But this is one you could probably get for less than $30. So for your bang for the buck is pretty solid.
Yeah, so the brand is owned by Jim Beam and produced in Claremont, Kentucky. It was originally introduced by the Hayden family as a tribute to Basil Hayden. So the man pictured on this bottle is Basil Hayden, if you didn't know that. And he was famous and a very well-known distiller.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's good information.
Yeah.
So, and this whiskey has been produced since the 1840, and in 1899 it was sold to the Wathen family. And then they had kind of broader interests, and they actually ended up later forming the National Distillers Group.
Yeah. So that company produced medicinal whiskey during Prohibition. A few distilleries were granted those permits. The whiskey is known for a high rye mash bill, Brian. I didn't know this until I started looking into it, but this is a 63% corn, 27% rye, and 10% malted barley. So usually a high rye bourbon is like in the 12 to 15% rye percentage, and this one is 27% rye. So I didn't know that, but as you can tell, I have enjoyed this bottle for quite a while, and it is one that I do like, but I think I'm going to get into my thoughts on my preference when it comes to Old Granddad later on in the video. So let's take a look at it here. It's kind of like a little kind of a darker amber color. Probably comes from the proof. I don't know what the age statement, there is not an age statement on it, but I don't know if there's any estimates out there. If you know that, just let me know. Maybe leave us a comment. Let's go in for the nose here.
So for being at 114 proof, the nose is not hot.
No. It's got a lot of
caramel.
Yeah. A little, oddly enough, even though it's a lower corn in the mash bill, it kind of has a lot of corn smell to it. There's a little bit of spice to it as well.
A little spice. I get a little bit of a nut.
Yeah.
Not sure. It's not a peanut.
Not strong.
Not very strong. Pretty faint, but yeah.
Yeah, like almond or something like that. So let's go in for a sip, Brian. So you definitely get the rye spice. And I think that even though this is 114 proof, I think that kind of, if the mash bill was lower in rye, I don't think you would recognize it as 114 proof.
And early on when I've had this, I always thought it drank over the proof. But this is totally different. But it's been a while since I've had this, honestly.
Yeah.
This is one that I had, and I used for making mixed drinks, and it's good in an old fashioned and different things like that. If you like a higher proof old fashioned, this is definitely good for that.
Like a good like sweet caramel, almost like a candy caramel. That I'm not saying it's a one noter, but
but it's pretty solid.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty in depth on the caramel. It's primarily what I get in the spice. Spice.
I'd say punch. If anybody needed to know what bourbon tasted like, this would be a pretty good example. That might be a little bit higher in rye, but that's very solid. I see why a lot of people do give this a lot of love, because it's very solid. Not a lot of complexity, maybe,
but for a $29 bottle, maybe probably even less than that most places.
Yeah.
To get the 114 proof, you're not going to get something that's going to knock your socks off.
Right.
But it's also something that can get you into the higher proofs that at an entry point that's not going to break your budget.
And like you said, you think that this makes a good old fashioned. You can mix it for that. And that 114 proof would dilute probably very nicely over a block of ice and with all the other ingredients. So I do understand why people do.
And this is one that I have heard that if you put it over a block of ice, that it opens up nicely. more so than some of the others out there. This is one that you put it on that block of ice and let it sit for 5-10 minutes. You're going to get a whole lot of different tasting elements out of it. So.
I did for a while drink it over a block of ice, and I would agree that it was something and normally ice isn't my thing. That's something, maybe it was last summer, so kind of hot outside. You don't really want 114 proof bourbon. I would put it over a block of ice. So on the finish, Brian, anything in particular? I don't think it's a really lengthy.
Like I said, the caramel kind of just kind of carries throughout. It's not a real long finish. But solid. Like I said, for the money, definitely good stuff. So
So do you think this is worth the hype that it gets?
I don't want to steal what I think you're going to say. So
go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's good stuff. When I'm thinking in this line with the old granddad, I lean towards the bonded. I much prefer the bonded over this.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's what I assumed you were going to say.
I feel like the bonded has quite a bit more flavor and complexity. This is very, very good. I mean, it's exceptional for its price and for its proof and all that stuff. But I feel like the bonded just gets you get a little bit more out of it. I tend to gravitate towards that 100 proof range, so maybe that plays into it. But
I sip on the bonded. This I very rarely sip on. This is something I typically will put into an old fashioned. So I use it as a mixer. So if I'm gauging it versus something else, a mixer is probably not going to rate as high as one I'm going to sip. But actually, now that I did sip it, it's not terrible. Like I said, it's a couple elements, nothing outlandish and great, but it's solid. So.
And I think I think we're both kind of in the middle of the hype that yes, it is really good. It is a great price point, but
should it be hard to find? No.
Should it be hard to find? No. But anyway, that's it. That's what we think about Old Grandad 114. Please share with us what you think of Old Grandad 114. And we end every episode the same way, and that is when you're with your family and your friends, always share your whiskey.